This is the Spinner Rack.
Welcome everybody in Spinner Rack. Once again, it's Mars and the PD Show.
The PD Show.
Well, Cal unfortunately has been stopped outside. We're not sure exactly what happened. Every once in a while he gets caught and has to take care of stuff outside. And I don't want to say law enforcement, but that's what we said.
The body cam was a bad one. We don't want to show you. It'll
But he
criminate
usually
him.
beats the rap. That's what I gotta say. He beats the rap. He's good that way, you know. So today we're gonna be talking about Wolverine. Once again, the Marvel Universe has reintroduced or reimagined, or not reimagined, or he's appearing once again. Or let's just call it what it is. They're trying to sell another #1 comic.
Well, no. Hasn't Hugh Jackman said Wolverine is definitely going to appear in the Marvel Universe, right? Didn't he just say that?
Yeah, he just said as an appearance, and I know Ryan Reynolds has been trying to get him in. Was trying to get him in his movie Deadpool, and he's going to be part of the. I think he's definitely going to be part of the whole Avengers.
Well,
movie is very strong.
Oh,
no, not again.
Wolverine is a reactor, but he is a reactor, right? So it's best to have him with the characters he knows best, which are the X-Men. Having them interact and argue about Captain America and all this stuff isn't as natural as having him argue with the X-Men. So him meeting these other characters should be very brief. The stories they've done, in my mind, in the comics, haven't really worked. So I'm not really too keen to see him jump out and insult Captain America and Iron Man.
Wait. Wolverine versus Hulk wasn't very good movie. Wolverine versus the X-Men wasn't good. Wolverine versus Spider-Man. I mean, classical.
Wolverine versus the Hulk. I'm saying
classical.
Wolverine versus the Hulk is a good thing, but the problem is when you do that, when they originally did that, it's a 3-part story. And there's a story in that story, right? So it's not all about Wolverine comes because the Wendigo and the Hulk are basically battling it out in Canada. Like they're just having it out, and Wolverine comes as sort of, Canada's answer to superheroes to stop these guys.
Wolverine is Canadian? I thought he changed his citizenship.
No, that's in the latest story, but we're not going to do that.
I mean, because he couldn't be here that long without his green card or something like that.
So Xavier handles all the green cards and all that stuff. He gets them all nationalized, and he puts things in their mind so they can pass the test. So
didn't he fight in the American Civil War too?
They changed that. That's in the origin. That's not.
So all I'm just saying is he's not Canadian.
He is Canadian.
He's not Canadian. Let's get
Canadian.
this Canadian false premise of Wolverine taken out of
God.
here. Okay? So Wolverine the
What,
American...
you going to call him James Howlett or something like that? That's he's like, oh, come on.
So once again, Wolverine is American. Just say that.
He's not an American. He's Canadian. The whole point, the Wolverines live in Canada. The whole first story, the Wendigos, like the idea of the Canadian thing, the Hulk goes to Canada.
Right, but
the fight is in Canada. That's why Hulk is fighting the fighting Wolverine.
But he comes
in
back.
Canada.
He resides in New York.
No,
State.
he resides in
Where? California? Come on.
He resides in New York because he's in Canada and he doesn't like the structure of being like almost a Canadian Mountie. He's stuck in this structure, and Professor Xavier offers him basically being
structure?
A free agent. Like basically he's doing the superheroics, fighting villains, but in not a structure where they put him in a box and bring him back and stuff like that.
Okay. But he had to get his papers to come into America.
Xavier handles all of that.
So as far as we're concerned, he's an American.
Oh God, whatever.
Tired of people trying to steal American
Wolverine,
heroes.
in my mind, Wolverine, in my mind, if you do a story like Wolverine versus Hulk, when they've done the animated version of that, and what they've done is that Wolverine can cut and hurt the Hulk, and that's not how it was in the comic. That Wolverine had this unbreakable metal, and it couldn't pierce the Hulk's hide, or maybe Wolverine wasn't strong enough to pierce the Hulk's hide. But that's the angle. Once they started hinting and saying, how could he couldn't he cut the Hulk's neck, and then people have been playing up the aspect of Wolverine being able to kill the Hulk. Because you get into a moment, if you do a story where Wolverine almost kills the Hulk and gives him mercy, that's not Wolverine. Wolverine is a guy that's gonna do the, he's basically been a homicidal maniac for a long time. Once you turn him into this guy who has, too much compassion, and in a fight decides that he's not going to finish the guy off, and someone at least stops him. But then you have a Hulk where the Hulk's on the ground, and Iron Man stops Wolverine. That's not going to be a good story. And you had Hulk beating everybody up. If Thor can't handle him in the first Avengers movie, how just because he has these claws that are yay big, and Hulk can grab his whole arm, he can grab this whole arm and toss him around. And the fact is, Wolverine's skeleton wasn't something that he could immediately recover after being thrown a couple of miles. That came way later. So you start suspending disbelief, saying, I had this adamantium skull, but it somehow protects me from being hit in the head. That's not how it works. So I just don't want them to do that sort of stuff. We have Captain America fight Wolverine, which shouldn't be a fight at all. Cap should be able to take him apart in no time.
What?
He's not supposed to have any skill. And the fact that he's had all these years of training, and we don't have the Wolverine that started in the X-Men and, basically was an upstart. That basically would jump head first and then, get beat up by the Animen.
But now, though, Wolverine has become leader of teams, right?
Okay.
A team leader. He's been trained by Charles Xavier. He's fought umpteen supervillains and heroes. And so his skill sets are much stronger.
Oh, my God.
Am I right?
He has been rewritten and retconned into having this past where he's been training and knows all these fighting techniques. That doesn't work with the fact that the first time he met Iron Fist, couldn't land a punch, and Iron Fist tossed him out of a window. He doesn't have, you shouldn't turn, and the movies did it decent, where they didn't decide, you know what, he has martial arts training. They're saying he has these claws, and he's fast, and he's feral. That's cool. Turning him into some sort of trained martial arts that has timing and all that stuff takes away all the stuff that they're playing up when they did the second movie, the Wolverine. Is like he don't have no skill. He's just out there fighting and killing. And that's cool. Adding the karate thing is like what they did to Daredevil. Like, oh, Daredevil has some karate training. I think, Wolverine's been around. He's got some karate training. It's like what your guy has, my guy has. Oh, Captain America has this, so my guy has that too. And then because you see more X-Men get this karate training. You see Storm somehow learns how to do every sort of fighting technique and all this stuff. And then you have Kitty Pryde who gets it, and then you got Psylocke who changes into Asian, which people explain the way that Chris Claremont wasn't planning to do it, and it just stuck for a while, and he wasn't there when they were, it's too many issues, but too many characters have karate training, and are the level of Iron Fist. It doesn't work. You brought this out of me. Wolverine in the Marvel Universe, they should do X-Men stories without the rest of the Marvel Universe. And if they want to have a walk-on like the way they've done in Deadpool, and say certain characters come into the story, but not we got to do all the Avengers and all the X-Men. I just think if you're going to do movies and you're going to do X-Men movies, just do X-Men movies.
He's one of the most popular characters in the whole Marvel TV universe, okay? Am I right? He has had his own run of movies. He's been part of the X-Men, there is no way they're going to avoid having him in the next MCU Avengers movie.
Why?
I just can't see how not.
Okay, let's go
That's how big he is.
Let's go to.
He doesn't have to be the central guy, but like you said, a walk-on, walk-off part. You know what I'm trying to say? He comes in, to aid them, and then breaks out.
To aid them. That's what I'm thinking. When they had him have a bit part in, X-Men, First Class,
yeah.
where he says, he curses at Magneto and Xavier. That's a okay Wolverine scene.
Are you talking about what about the one when they break into the to that underground facility?
No, that one was.
And then he comes out feral and he runs out.
I don't know. I'm not sure about that one. It was an okay one because he didn't become part of the team, but at the same time, I'm still like, what one was that? Was that was
the last X-Men movie, I think.
Apocalypse?
Yeah, Age of Apocalypse at the very end.
Yeah. Cause that's weird. Cause he got captured in
the timeline for X-Men movies are just bananas and Fox. We just can't keep track.
But
of where it is and what's going on and stuff like that because,
Cause Days of the Future Past, he gets captured in the end. He's in the X-Men thing, and then in the Age of Apocalypse, they were almost a reboot, right?
Right.
And they introduced new characters, and Wolverine just shows up. Because you got to have a Wolverine scene. Not at the very end. He just sort of runs out, and Jean leaves him something in his mind. Say, like me, love me later on.
What's your hate with Jean Grey and Wolverine?
Because it's not a good,
She likes the bad boys.
She doesn't like Wolverine. Wolverine is like this big, right?
Well, not anymore. He's this big, so everything has been changed. I don't even think in the comic he's that big anymore.
They kind of middled it out, but
yeah, he's gotten taller.
I think what I had issue with was that I was okay with him having this crush on Jean and her being a telepath, so she would know it, but she's not playing to it because she's just like he doesn't have a chance, right? And then at the time in Marvel, there were characters that didn't have a chance, like Hawkeye, Wolverine,
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man had interests, but it's like, the thing of having these characters that are too rough around the edges for people to like, and then the bad boy thing comes, so then people are like, oh, well, he's a bad boy, so then they would like him, and it's like you're changing what happened where Jean really couldn't really get to it. The connection with her and Cyclops is the one where Cyclops is the one that's closed in a shell, and she's trying to bring it out. Now, she did leave the X-Men, and she made some new male friends, and later on she still connects with Cyclops. And that's an important part of the story. Now, if you want to sort of end that relationship, you don't want to end it with a torrid affair, because it's very important to have Jean to look at Cyclops as someone who finally opened up to somebody. And this was a struggle for Jean, because he was very closed off. So this is important. You have them have a breakup, not have it be like a nonsense breakup where she cheats with Wolverine like they did in the comics. So you have to just remember, in my mind, that's why I was okay if he had interest and he thought he was a better man than Cyclops. And then later on, I think there's a moment in the Untold story where Wolverine is like, they're about to wipe Jean's mind, and he's like, why don't you gorge your eyes out? And this, that, and the other. And he's like, Wolverine, come on, we gave our word. And then he said, Cyclops, Scott, she loved you. Like, it's an important moment where Wolverine is like
acknowledging that, yeah.
But he's like going to him as not even saying as a friend, but as a friend. Like, come on, we can't do this to her. And it's like, there's nothing we can do because she's already,
right.
She's a threat to the universe. So I can't even stop that. And we already fought to stop it. So in my mind, I'm all for. I have a lot of misgivings about the X-Men in the MCU because they've tried to do the unified universe, and it's hard to do that in a movie. It's hard to do it in a long-term story.
But they just did that with the Avengers, and that came out pretty well.
It's a Thanos story. So Thanos is the thread that goes through all the thing, and then they have all these bits and pieces with everybody else. But the key thread is Thanos, and then they're already playing up characters meeting characters. Now we're going to have another movie. We had characters fighting characters and characters meeting characters and struggling with each other.
You talking about Secret Wars?
No, not talking about Secret Wars. I'm talking about Civil War. Civil War they fought. I'm saying the Civil War they fought in Avengers Infinity War. They mixed up the groups, so you're meeting new people and having this interaction. They've already done that. We're going to do that again with the Fantastic Four and then the X-Men.
They're going to have to explain how they come into the universe. Look,
Not
look, I'm not going to disagree with you. All I'm saying is Wolverine is coming back, and I think it's a great thing. I think it's a great thing to show. Once again.
That's how you're going to end with this?
Clearly my compatriot is...
That's how you're going to end this?
Clearly my compatriot is wrong-headed on this, you know, and he's short-sighted in his sight on this. This is what we want. This gives the fans what they want. It gives Marvel what they want, and I think it should go for it.
Okay, let's see. When they first put Wolverine into the Avengers, because someone had the bright idea that Marvel had put all their most popular characters in one book, and that's what the Avengers were, which they never were that. Marvel never put Spider-Man into the Avengers for a regular period of time. They didn't take out the Thing and put him into the Avengers for a regular period of time. They did some of that. No, I'm saying, but they didn't put them in their top book, which they were saying like the Avengers. So what they were saying, that's what DC did with the Justice League. They put their top characters in there. And what happened? Almost all of them struggled with sales being in the Justice League book. And then the same with the Avengers. Stan took all of the popular characters, not even the popular character, but everyone had the solo book out of the comic. So then you go to what Bendis did. He took Wolverine out, the X-Men. No, he didn't take him out the X-Men, but he put him in there at the same time Wolverine's in the X-Men. And what happened? The Avengers became the top book. The X-Men finally started to really struggle after all this time. It's still one of the top books, but just to take this one character and then everyone going to see Bendis and Wolverine.
That's interesting.
And that's like, no, he could just do a Wolverine solo comic.
But you're just saying the impact that he had in being added to the Avengers, that plays into the whole thing.
That's the thing. That's why Stan took Thor and Iron Man and Ant-Man out of the book, because it was hurting the sales of the main book.
Right.
I just don't, that's the part that doesn't work for me, because then you're already trying to have the dynamic of Wolverine and the X-Men, which we haven't gotten yet. And now you're immediately trying to throw them into the Avengers. And I think that's a bad thing. And you say, oh, well, they've had 3 or 6 X-Men with Wolverine, and why can't he just meet the Avengers now?
Why can't he?
Because everyone says the old X-Men movies were bad.
We're going to have to agree to disagree. And this is a rambling thing.
Lord.
We're not going
It's always a rambling thing.
Well, you're not agreeing with me.
How can I agree with you?
Then how can you disagree with me?
I don't want to see Wolverine comes to the Avengers.
I do want to see Wolverine come to the Avengers. I think it's just badass having one of the top talents out of the X-Men universe come in. I mean, right now, can you name any of the X-Men characters who were in the last movie? Any of the actors?
Any of the actors?
Any of the actors.
Besides Hugh Jackman?
Yeah, exactly. So
James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, the people that we're supposed to know.
So you know
the character who plays Beast.
What's his name?
I don't know his name, but he's a solid actor.
Why don't we do the girl who's related to
the girl
Aquaman.
Who's in
Aquaman's stepdaughter.
Oh, you're talking about oh man.
And the girl from Game of Thrones.
Zoe Kravitz.
Yeah.
Zoe Kravitz, but she's not in X-Men. They iced her. They iced her after the first movie she was in.
Right, that's right. They iced her.